Hello guys, welcome to Chasing a Murderer Talking News. My name is Debbie. I want to ask you guys to please hit that subscribe button, notification bell for you want notices whenever we have a new upload, as well as the like button. And so today, I wanted to kind of do a brief summary of what's going on with the Suzanne Morphew case. And this is because she is still missing. Nobody has seen Suzanne Morphew. And this case is kind of rattled this very small town that it's coming out of. It's kind of like an isolated area, Salida, Colorado. I hope I said that right. I really don't watch much news on this or videos. I just kind of keep up with everything that's going on because I really feel like the police know more than you guys realize. I believe any moment now you're going to start hearing a little bit more on this case, and I think it's going to surprise us all. Suzanne Morphew was a mother. She's a beautiful woman, and she's married to a man by the name of Barry Morphew. He's a construction landscaper. He's also a volunteer firefighter, and he's taken on a lot of heat. Of course, he's going to be one of the main suspects. He was married to her, usually is that way. But a lot of people are zeroing in on Barry. They believe that he was acting strange, and you can't blame them. Firstly, we must know how Suzanne Morphew went missing. Suzanne Morphew was alone on Mother's Day. That's according to Barry anyways, as well as her children. I feel like Suzanne's children have a clue, or at least a piece of that puzzle that will make more sense of what happened to her. Her kids were camping during Mother's Day, and they tried to reach out to her and were unable to get a hold of their mother for Mother's Day. And everybody knows this story. I'm just kind of skipping through all this because there's hundreds and hundreds of videos out there on this case. Suzanne Morphew had a bout with cancer. She's a survivor. They also were running a nonprofit organization, and they were living in a pretty big house in the middle of nowhere in Colorado. So obviously they were doing pretty well financially, at least at some point. So let me give you this date before I forget. So May 10th is the date that she is presumed missing. On Mother's Day, her daughters reach out to Suzanne Morphew, and they claim they're not able to get in touch with their mother. So this is very concerning to them. And so they reach out to other places as well as Barry. And they reach out to neighbors nearby who more than gladly go and check on Suzanne Morphew. Well, at least try. They notice that Suzanne Morphew's bike is not at the house. She's not answering the door. So red flags start to raise up. For people who know Suzanne Morphew, they are aware that she often rides her bike on trails in the nearby area. And there's a lot of trails. There's a lot of open area, a lot of isolated spots. And there's a few water sources. But on the last day, supposedly, that people believe Suzanne Morphew was okay. She went bike riding, but she never returned home. Once investigators were contacted, or police, they went on a search for Suzanne Morphew, and they locate her bike near a water source. But there's absolutely no sign of Suzanne Morphew. So this being a very open area, investigators, they actually find a few items. They have some suspicions, and then immediately they start looking into the spouse. That's how it goes. Her husband was out of town, about 150 miles away from their home. He was staying in a hotel. And inside that hotel, after he has this concern for his missing wife, he leaves. And someone else comes into that room, or staying in that room, finds these towels that they say are drenched in this chlorine, very strong chlorine stench. Now, this is something that started actually raising red flags for a lot of people, because they started looking for answers as to why those towels might have smelled that way. Once Barry got back home, he went out to the spot they found her bike, and he has a problem with investigators. He says that they're trampling all over the evidence and that they're messing everything up. At first, Barry is very involved with the searches for Suzanne Morphew. He even heads a few. But it's not long, and he starts to kind of withdraw. Many people involved with this case are researching this case, and there's a YouTuber that actually goes out, poses as a searcher, and starts to record him without him knowing. I'm pretty sure this is what probably started making him withdraw even more, which is something you want to try to prevent. You want to see somebody that's involved with a case like this not being tipped off in any way. You want them relaxed and calm. But he starts withdrawal, unfortunately. And at that point, you know, he's later on in this case, several months goes by, and he's just refusing to be involved with searches or anything else. Also, remember, Suzanne Morphew is only 49 years old. She's beat cancer. And her brother is very concerned for the, what happened to his sister, Suzanne Morphew. And he starts a few search parties of his own. And we'll go into more details about him later. But I don't want to focus on Suzanne Morphew's brother, her kids, any of her family members. I really do want to focus on what would have happened to her and why. But just a quick note that when her brother started searching for her, he claims that Barry made it difficult to search the property. He really wouldn't work with them, and so this was suspicious to them. But to me, if Barry had been involved with this, well, it probably, you won't find her in that area. He had driven 100 miles away from the house. It's going to be somewhere in between there and his job. As the case moved forward, there were a few volunteers. I can't remember the name of them, but there's a dive team that has a YouTube channel. And they actually come out to the water source that they believe that Suzanne Morphew was last at. And they actually dove searching for Suzanne, but didn't find anything. And months go by, and we get no answers. Just long story short, because I want to get to this point. We know that her husband, Barry Morphew, was raging over the fact that he felt like investigators were messing up the crime scene. We also hear at times that police don't seem to be working on this case. And so there's risen concern. I've even done a video just in case. I wasn't certain if that was the case or not. But they're very quiet. And usually when police are that quiet, there's a reason for it. But as we move forward, we're hearing bits of rumors. We're hearing all kinds of stuff. We're hearing, we're seeing a lot of YouTube videos go up where they're talking to family members, which I really wouldn't want to push. Because anyways, it's just not a good thing to push, at least not during a very important investigation. So I've never ever reached out to family members like I normally do. I just feel like on this case, there's something going on there that police need kept quiet. But it turns out that the police have never been quiet. They've been searching and investigating the whole time. This case is going to take a lot of work because there's not those surveillance cameras to make it easy. You've got to search her phone. You got to search her social media. You got to find those breadcrumbs she left behind. Now, just recently, Suzanne Morphew's father passed away, and in his obituary, it was quite interesting because of what it says. Remember, police have not said whether or not they believe Suzanne Morphew is no longer here. But in that obituary, it says otherwise. It says that Morphew is described as being missing and presumed dead. And it's no secret for those of you keeping up with this case, her brother, which I told you I mentioned later, Andrew Mormon, he believes that his sister was murdered. Not only does he think that his sister was murdered, he believes that she was murdered by her husband. He has made that obvious on several interviews, quotes that he has said through the time she's been missing, through the investigation on many YouTube channels. And he's given hints of why he believes this, but really there's no solid evidence to point to Barry as of now. Is it suspicious that Barry was not there on Mother's Day, and in the way that she disappeared and the way that he was acting? Absolutely, red flags are there, but there's nothing solid yet. Remember, her brother Andrew launched a search back in September. This was independent for his sister, but never found much to really help them out. Again, he did argue that Barry was making the search difficult for properties nearby the home. According to Suzanne's brother, Barry also put up like a security system around his house with concerns. But you got to remember, you got people sneaking in, recording him and doing all kinds of things. If this were you, that might be something you would do as well. So Suzanne Morphew's father died of cancer shortly after she went missing. And in the obituary, it mentions that she might be, dead. Not only that, it doesn't mention Barry Morphew's name. So again, it shows a little bit of hostility or resentment going on there between Suzanne Morphew's brother and Barry Morphew. So it was about 6 months later that Suzanne Morphew's father passes away of cancer, and we see the obituary come out. And so obviously a lot of people believe that Suzanne's oldest brother, Andrew, most likely wrote that obituary, especially if you read the quotes and stuff that he left behind, the remnants left behind through news sources and things like that, because in some articles it says that he had given up hope in finding his sister alive. And his main goal now is to find her body and give her a proper burial. You can find that on Fox 21 News. In some articles, he is quoted saying, quote, "I've got to find my little sister, and I have to bring closure to my family," end quote. And here you can see where police are actually kind of telling him, we want you to not talk about this. And he says, quote, "We were quiet for a while because investigators asked that of us. But it's time now to rally the troops and go west and find her," end quote. So it seems that he's getting impatient with the investigators and he wants answers now, which we all would. But if you want to catch somebody that's done something severe and so tragic, you have to be very careful with your footsteps. You have to be sneaky in order to collect the evidence you need to collect. But it's obvious that Andrew feels that maybe the investigators are not doing a proper job. It's very obvious that there's some major tension between Suzanne Morphew's daughters and husband and her brother. In fact, Mormon said that he hadn't spoken to Morphew's daughters about any of the searches or anything to do with their missing mother. And on Fox 59, he is quoted saying, quote, "I haven't talked to them. I hope that they are okay," end quote. In a few articles, he's even mentioned that kind of sending a message out to them, because it's obvious he's not able to speak with them, that they contact their grandpa. So there's something going on there that we're not aware of. But what he should probably remember is these two girls are probably going through more than any of them put together. They don't know what to believe. All they can do is wait for the evidence to come in to tell the truth. They don't want to jump to conclusions, because if they do, well, this is going to push a wedge in between them and their father. And what if he is innocent? So it's a very difficult situation to be in, and to press the children going through so much. I think just leave the children out of it. Can't imagine what the girls are going through. And again, I want to say that each person deals with grief and, pain differently. And so it's obvious that this family's going through a lot of anger, including Barry, because he says in an article interviewed for Fox 21, quote, "The sheriff's department screwed this whole thing up from the beginning, and now they're trying to cover it up and blame it on me," end quote. So that comment kind of is a red flag for me, because you're trying to figure out, why would he feel that way if he's not even labeled a suspect or a person of interest? But we're hearing some pretty different details coming out today. So again, this is in November of 2020, just last month. Authorities say that they renewed an appeal for information about the missing Colorado mother, Suzanne Morphew. At that point, when they did this would mark the 6-month anniversary of Suzanne's disappearance on Mother's Day. Despite the hundreds of tips that were rolling in and the numerous searches, they say that Suzanne Morphew continues to remain missing. And they give hints that they are focusing on a social media presence, and believe that she kept in touch with friends that she loved dearly through that social media. So that's an interesting statement. So it's kind of leaning towards maybe somebody that she's had contact with recently. And you can read this update on the Chaffee County Facebook website, and it was posted by Sheriff John A. Spazey. Or is it Speasy? I think it's Speasy. It's not certain why, but it seems that this sheriff called out to anyone who may have engaged with Suzanne on Facebook, Instagram, Voxer, FaceTime, or WhatsApp, and asking them to come forward. If they haven't already, they need to do this regardless of how insignificant you think this information might be, or whether you think investigators already are aware of it. So there's something it looks like they're just looking for something to back up something they already know. To me, anyway, so that tells me that they know something. He also said, quote, "We thank you, our community, for your assistance, concern, and patience. Suzanne is missing. We law enforcement hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. The worst case scenario is that something unlawful occurred, and as such, we go about our investigation ensuring that we are working within the rules of the law and treating everything we learn as potential evidence for court," end quote. So, this sounds promising to me. Usually, investigators will not spout, especially ones of this caliber, anything out without having something. But it sounds like they do suspect that there's something foul in this, which most people suspect, but perhaps they might have some evidence pointing toward that, which is something they need to have. So the solid evidence proving what happened to Suzanne Morphew. At least we all hope so. They also say, they kind of put that in there, where as much as we want her to be okay, and this is something I often say, I mean, we do want them to be okay. We don't want it to sound like we're wanting to jump the gun. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and most likely is going to be something we didn't want. And so hopefully this video will be an awareness that if you had any contact with Suzanne Morphew online, And no matter how little you think it is, contact police. Just tell them, say, yes, I spoke with her on this day. Because something there might help them out. It could help their timeline. It could point them a new direction. It could do anything. So please, if you know Suzanne Morphew and you communicated with her in any sorts, right as she went missing, please contact police and investigators. Let them know. You could be the biggest part in this investigation and you just don't know it. Or the biggest part in helping them solve it, sorry. So I plan on making another video on Suzanne Morphew, but not right now. I just wanted to do this to kind of raise awareness and to kind of talk about her again. Guys, I want to say, don't forget about these girls we have missing right now. Big concern. Jasmine Robinson, Kiara Coles. We're even still looking into Sarah Galloway's case. We're not certain that this has not got foul play attached to it, and so a lot of people are wanting to look into that. All we can do is hope that this family, especially Suzanne Morphew's girls, their pain is healed, at least somewhat, and they find answers. I really hope they do, and they find Suzanne Morphew. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting this channel. Don't forget to push like, subscribe. And also, I have a PayPal if you would like to donate to help run this channel. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.